I'm surprised you didn't want to wear your merchandise today.
I am wearing my merch.
You received a new merch in the mail.
Well, I don't want to match.
Why? Why?
Huh?
Because why?
Because then we're gonna look like we're
brother and sister.
No, we're like pit crew. We're like Red Bull pit crew over here.
I would be pit crew for you any day. Every time we go somewhere. So just a little bit of background, okay? So we're Indian, right? When we go to Punjabi events.
I think they can tell.
I don't know, whatever.
Dude's wearing a turban and a beard over here.
I'm Indian.
And also my skin is not like white.
So we're Punjabi, and when we go to like any type of like weddings, parties for, you know, people in our families or friends, I always ask him, I'm like, can you match me? Like our outfits, like I see people do it. We have sister-in-laws, we've got cousins, family, friends, everybody who does it. And the reason that Cam gives every single time for why he won't match me is...
You look like brother and sister.
Says nobody ever. I want a poll on this.
Says me.
I want a poll on this, okay?
Says me.
So I don't believe that, but
we
that's
look
okay.
Like brother,
no, we don't. We don't. We don't. We're kind of matching right now. We don't look like brother and sister.
I don't want to look like Red Bull Pit Crew over here.
That's fine.
This is the Red Bull Pit Crew podcast.
I will be
this is the F1 My Life
I will
podcast.
be Red Bull Pit Crew any day. Christian Horner, call me for a job.
I'm representing Red Bull too. I got my hoodie on, bro.
That's great. I know. I look.
They need the support right now. Hardcore.
They do.
Hardcore.
I went through a series of emotions today. It was very loud in our house.
It was. I love it though.
It was amazing.
Great. Welcome to the F1 My Life podcast with Cam and Bria.
Bria and Cam and
We are your hosts.
I'm your host.
And we just watched.
Just my co-host.
We just watched the Brazilian
Sao
Grand Prix.
Paulo.
Actually, that's true. It's called the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. It's
Sao
no
Paulo.
It's no longer called the Brazilian.
Los Lagos.
They were mentioning that in the commentary.
Brazil.
We just watched that electrifying Grand Prix. It was actually a crazy race weekend.
It's good. Yeah, it's been a crazy week. Red leather, yellow leather. It's been a crazy race weekend.
Yeah, dude. There was a lot. There was a lot that went on, not only from like a racing standpoint, but like a team standpoint.
I wanted to do the podcast like 2 days ago. This is
there was
where
like definitely tons that happened. I guess like let's start with like how we usually do. So the Grand Prix happened. Let's start. So this particular Grand Prix was also a Sprint Quali, as you guys probably saw.
It was.
Which is like, I don't know, what do you think about Sprint Quali? Let's just start there.
I still don't love it. I understand it. It's not that it doesn't conceptually make sense to me. It's just, I don't love it. It's not my favorite thing. I just really enjoy Quali the way that it is. And I just think it's unnecessary amounts of damage to the cars.
I mean, there's a risk of damage, obviously.
And I don't think it's like financially responsible if they're trying to go like financially less, because for teams like Haas or Williams or Alfa Romeo, even who have a lower amounts of budgeting that they can do, like those are the cars that usually end up in problems. And I don't know.
Well, and interesting to that point is like, you know how Mercedes is having to swap out the engines now?
Yeah.
Like, depending on how many sprints you do, like that does degrade the engine. Yeah. Obviously, anytime you race, it degrades the engine a little bit. So they're only literally like 3 races away, and you're seeing teams like swapping engines quite a bit now. Because
it's not just it's not a quali. What they are going to call it next year is going to be like a sprint race. Yeah. Because that's what it is. It's a sprint race.
Yeah. It's a race, yeah. And even, I don't know, was it Crofty or Martin Brundle who maybe said, like, he's like, they should just call it a race.
Brundle.
He's like, that's what it is. It's a race. So why don't they just call it a race?
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with that. I don't know. Like, they're like, and I kind of mentioned this to you as well. I was like, if they're going to just, because they said the whole point of doing sprints is to make F1 more exciting. If you want to make it more exciting with races, just do more races. Yep. You know what I mean? It's like it's like 2 races. It's essentially like half of a race in a weekend.
Yes, 100%. I agree.
I don't like.
I don't.
I guess maybe that's what they're doing, but it's like you know. Here's my thoughts on this too. Actually, if you're gonna do like. If you're going to take all the risks of a race, they should be awarded the same points for it as well.
That's what I'm saying. The risk to reward does not match up. I think we talked about this once. Yeah. You're awarding what's the point in the rest of the grid even pushing? I mean,
Yeah.
I get it because it's the lineup for the race. Like I understand this whole
So you
point.
have to do it.
It's like it's perfect actually if you think about it. Like the whole point is to push everyone to their limit because you don't want to end up starting in P20, Mazepin. But it's like you have to push and your reward isn't necessarily like all there.
There's no.
I have to sneeze. That's why I'm like.
That's why you're pausing for dramatic effect.
Dramatic effect.
Yeah, the other thing is like, I mean, I don't think anyone would do this, but you could like intentionally like just touch somebody and puncture their tire.
But you would get like a huge penalty for it because
but then again, it's like, you have to be able to prove that actually happened. But I don't know, the sprint format, my prediction is I don't think it's going to stay. They tried it. It's an interesting thing.
You know why it's there though? So to promote more viewership through the weekend.
Yeah, but then I don't understand. It's like, I just don't think that makes sense. I think if you're going to make them race, it's a race. If it's not, if it's quali, it's quali. If it's a race, it's a race. And that's as simple as it is. It doesn't matter how many laps you do it for. A race is a race.
A race is a race. Yeah, quali is quali. Like it makes sense like why it's called qualification. But my other thing with that is like the amount of tires that we're using, the entire amount of fuel, and like we're getting the pit crew like all jazzed up. And their argument, one of the arguments that I was reading for doing a sprint is like it really helps the pit crew to like work harder. And I'm like, but we don't pit. We don't pit like at all. Like we're basically getting to the grid and that's it. Like that's really all we're doing here. So no, we're not pitting. It's more work for the mechanics. That's truly what I feel it is because, there's bound to be damage. There's bound to be carbon fiber that comes off the cars. It's just a bigger expense. And to be honest with you, I think that it's super interesting and super disrespectful that the F1 is trying to be more financially responsible while doing sprint quali. Like, make it make sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. It costs more, I feel, to do sprint quali than it does to do a typical traditional qualification. Because it's unlikely that you have all 20 drivers on the grid at one point throughout the course of a quali, versus on sprint quali you always do unless someone DNFs. So,
with all that said, I think this is something they're just trying to test and figure out if it makes sense.
Oh, I lost my little bumper.
Yeah. You lost your wind muff. That's gonna make a lot of noise.
Sorry.
There you go. Throw it back on there. It's like, most likely that's what it sounds like. Do I still have mine on? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You should do audiobooks. You have a nice voice.
Do I?
Yeah.
Do you have an audiobook voice?
You have an audiobook voice. You could do all the different characters. Let's not get off track.
What characters?
Like, we're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. We're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Like, I don't know. Like, you could do Harry, Hermione, and Ron all in one.
I would want to do Draco Malfoy.
I know you would.
I just want to be like, Harry Potter.
That's like...
The acting in that movie is so
ridiculously
extra.
over
It's so
the top.
cringy. Even when it came out, I'm like, the acting in these movies, but they were like new actors. It's like, they were just like, always like crying and it's just like ridiculous. Is that like
disagree.
a British thing though? Like the overacting?
I think it is. I mean, look at Gordon Ramsay.
He's just very animated.
No.
I mean, they're very different from Gordon Ramsay. You donut! No one's calling anyone a donut. Why are we going off on these crazy tangents?
I don't know. You started it this time.
Sprint quali, man. So, yeah, I guess that's what we think about it overall. The actual sprint qualification for Brazil. So, they do real quali, right? And then they do sprint, or is it? That's how it goes, right? Quali. So let's just get the results. You got the results up there, Olive?
I don't just yet. I'm gonna grab them right now.
Brazil.
I just love when there's 3 different ones.
So they do regular quali that determines the sprint grid, and then they do sprint quali.
So quali itself was interesting. Okay. Like it was interesting because Max So the Red Bulls were not expected to be strong, or they were expected to be strong here, but they weren't expected to be like so crazy strong.
I'm
over
hearing like
Mercedes.
conflicting stuff. I thought Red Bull said that they are good in the last few circuits.
They did, but the straight line speed of the Mercedes is very powerful, as we saw from the entire weekend.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of insane because Hamilton was putting up times in Q3 that were just like stupid fast, like ridiculously fast, like unnecessarily fast. He was like a full like quarter of a second off of Verstappen, and Verstappen was trying so hard. It was interesting to see quali the way it happened, but ultimately it was Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez. So that's our top four: Gasly, Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Ricciardo. I thought it was interesting because we are seeing this very similarly again, where we're coupling off the teams. So we had like Mercedes.
Alternating? Or no, oh no, you mean they're staying together?
They were staying together previously. Now it was like every other. So it was like Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez. Gasly was just in a world of his own. He didn't have a partner to play with. And then it was like Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Ricciardo. So you had a buddy system going into Sprint Quali. That was like a huge thing I remember Martin Brundle talking about. You kind of need that bundle. And then Alonso Ocon as well. Like, you had a buddy
everyone
system.
was paired. Mm-hmm. Can I, since we're on this topic, and you brought up that Gasly's on his own, what do you think happens to Yuki? Because clearly, like, let's be real, man. Let's be real here. Yuki's been struggling this year.
Yuki is still doing better than most Alpha Tauri drivers.
He's struggling. I mean, I don't have all the results from last year or whatever it may be, but, like, he's struggling, man.
I mean, he is.
And the fact, like, to your point, I just thought this is like Gasly is, look at this all the way down the grid, right? Within 3 positions, you have like Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, right? Alpine, Vettel and Stroll are like split. You got Tsunoda sitting there, then Raikkonen, the Williams, and then the Haas. So it's like, the way I look at this is I'm like, okay, they got the same, it's straightforward. They got the same car in AlphaTauri, right?
Yep.
One guy's in P4, the other guy's P12. How does that happen?
Fine, then explain Mercedes. Bottas is significant. He is, even today, we
Yeah, but
heard
look at
the
quali.
car. I'm just saying, but the car itself, like, you can't say that. You can't.
But the thing is, at least Bottas can, like, hold his own when it comes to racing. Like, he'll get in P2 or P3.
No, I understand.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
If Lewis is in P1, I feel like if they struggle and if nothing extraordinary happens, they're usually together. But when you have drivers who are far apart, and you see this with Norris and Ricciardo as well on some races, Ricciardo started to improve quite a bit into these latter races, but for the most part, when the season started, it was Norris like way up and Ricciardo way in the bottom.
Yep.
You know, like, I don't know. For me, and this is just going like, you know, a little more further ahead, I think AlphaTauri is going to make some moves when it comes to Yuki. Because Gasly is like performing pretty well.
He is.
I don't know, and we'll see how, you know, Perez seems pretty good. I think I'd be curious to see if they swap him and Gasly.
Who?
That'd be interesting. Perez and
No,
Pierre.
I don't think they would. Verstappen, or Perez is doing amazing. He has been consistent the last 3 races.
Yeah.
He has been consistent. Why would they put an AlphaTauri who's in P5 when you've got Perez in P4, P3, or P2? Like, there's no point.
Because there's an AlphaTauri in P5. That's my point, right?
So they would want to bring him up?
He's in an AlphaTauri. Which one's the better car? The Red Bull or the AlphaTauri? He's 1 position behind Perez in qualifying in an AlphaTauri.
Okay, look at the times.
So I'm just like, yeah, so it's 109.1 on Q1 for Perez, 109.3.
Look at the quali like Q3.
Right? Yeah, this is identical. Q2 is 108.9, 108.9 for both of them.
Okay,
and Perez, yeah, sure, last one he's 108.4.
I just don't think Gasly is as consistent as Perez is. I just don't think he's as consistent. If he can demonstrate that he can be as consistent, meaning he continues this through the rest of the season, then yeah, we'll talk about it. But until then, I don't agree.
I don't know. I feel like he's shown
the last
that.
3 races, yes, he has. But como he came from Monza with P1 and then was DNF'd the next time for making a careless move.
Yeah.
You know, you have to see the development of these drivers as well. And you have to see, is Perez more suited in a Red Bull? Will he go further? Or do you think, Gasly is the one of AlphaTauri. Is he going to be happy being P2 to Verstappen?
I mean, I guess we'll never know. We can always speculate as to where he will actually end up.
But all of that aside, though, Quali was interesting. I also thought Quali was interesting because the track temperature was very cold. It was like 16 degrees.
And it was going to be hotter for the race.
And it was hotter for the race. So the tire degradation comes into effect. So I know Max said something about that because he was like, I'm not too miffed about being P2. But it obviously didn't play as much of a role.
So qualifying goes off, and we finish with Hamilton in first, Verstappen splitting the Red Bulls in second, Bottas, Perez, Gasly again. And we've been talking about this in the podcast, how Gasly's like hasn't been talked about too much, but he's like doing pretty amazing for himself.
Yeah.
Sainz, Leclerc, shoutouts to the Ferraris, Norris, Ricciardo, Alonso, Ocon, and the usual suspects filling up the mid to bottom of the grid.
Yeah.
So the pack, I should say. So quali happens, right?
Quali happens, and then sprint quali, you get to pick your own tires, and we start Brazil, Los Lagos sprint quali with Max on mediums, and he got a good start.
Yeah.
But not a great start compared to Bottas, who flew off the line. But before we get to sprint quali, actually, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. So this is the news that happened, right? So the news that happened on our Friday night to Saturday morning was, one, there is an issue with the Mercedes rear wing, that when it's open for DRS,
when the DRS is open,
there's supposed to be a minimum gap and a maximum gap, okay? And so the minimum gap was fine, but the maximum gap, it was bigger than what it was supposed to be by
than what was allowed by the FIA
by the
rules.
FIA. But it was minuscule, but nonetheless it was bigger. So the stewards had called Hamilton and of course the team, a team representative, in to speak to them. And after quali, this is the second story, Max decided that he would be a child.
So I guess first things first, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is Mercedes were going to swap the engine on Lewis. This was before everything they announced this. So he was going to receive a 5-spot grid penalty for that.
Mm-hmm.
So even if he's dealing with that as
so
is,
even
right?
if he qualified first, which is what he did,
he would be dropped.
He'd be started sixth.
Fifth. Yeah, sixth, sorry.
So he'd be starting sixth. So we all knew that was going to happen. Hamilton coming back from, P6 is kind of ridiculously nice. That's just the rule, the way it goes if you're swapping out your engine. So then you slap this onto there as well, right? This story about the DRS, the rear wing. And then the third thing that of course happens is Max touches the exact questionable part on Hamilton's car on 44 after quali.
The guy gets out of the car after quali, walks over to Hamilton's car and just is I don't know, man. I don't know what he's thinking. And I was saying I don't know if it's just because he's kind of just weird and awkward and walks around with this weird looking face and stuff.
Oh, that's not even.
No, it's just no. I'm just joking. But he's just so. Sometimes I feel with Verstappen, he's so in the zone that he doesn't even And I think Verstappen's a very analytical, cerebral driver. And it's just he doesn't think about it. When he wants to analyze and look at something, he just goes and does it without thinking. And it's dude, for me, I was just you don't go up and touch anybody's car, period. You don't, who are you to touch, it's somebody coming up, if I'm shooting and somebody comes and touches my camera, it's you can't touch my camera, bro. That's not allowed. Even musicians do this with their instruments.
I agree.
It's a huge problem if you go and touch a musician's instrument without their, without them telling you it's okay. So no idea why the guy did that.
I mean, okay, so this is the other portion of this that I have to say that I did a little research on.
What?
I did not do my warm-ups today. Did a little research on. So Parc Fermé, which is after quali is done, when the cars are literally like, you don't work on the cars. There's like a lot of these rules about what you can and cannot do to the cars without the stewards or the FIA's input on it. You're like assigned someone who literally like overlooks and watches you doing this. There's rules about what you can and can't do, and Parc Fermé has not been very well surveillanced, is I guess the best word to use, in the past. And so apparently this is something that has happened before, but it's not very much enforced. And I think the reason that this is such a big deal is because the DRS wing was already, like the width of it was already in question, and that is what Max was touching. So I think that had this not been in question already, and had we not been in this part of the championship, I wonder if this would have even been a conversation, because what the stewards were saying, if you read their 3-page report, this has happened before. I guess Vettel, I think it was like back in 2018 or something, and I think I remember seeing this, is like everyone goes around and they kind of like look at and stuff and you know, lay a hand or touch things. Not everyone, but like it's kind of like they're very intrigued. They're very cerebral people. And for them, it's like they're like little mechanics in their head, right? So it's not uncommon for this to have occurred. I think it's because of the context that's why this came into question. So early on Saturday morning, we found out 2 things. So the stewards saw the 2 drivers separately, and they made their decision about Max's indiscretion, I guess, first. And his was a 50,000 pound fine that he needed to pay. And in the report and all over social media, it was like unlikely that Max's touch could have affected the functioning of Lewis's car or anything. And then Lewis's kind of indiscretion came up. It was a lot more conversation, obviously. They had a lot of different evidence. They had a lot of conversations. And what the ruling was is that the stewards did not believe it was an intentional, indiscretion. They believe that due to the use of this rear wing, that's why this problem came into place, and that they don't feel that this is an overarching problem, but they're not just willing to say, oh, Mercedes, work on it, figure it out before the race. They had to make a ruling that this was a problem. And they also did say that it's unlikely. And Lewis's representative also said in the context that it was unlikely that Max's handling of the car affected the driving of the car. And they handed Lewis a disqualification. So he was disqualified from quali. So he went from first to 20th.
Yeah.
He was handed a 20-place grid penalty.
Yeah, and this just kind of came into my head, but when he was saying oh, I was given a 25, you weren't given a 25, you were given 20.
You earned that other 5.
Yeah. Well, no, because it's not like he went up 5 spots and then had to go back again. Yeah. The maximum you can go down. You can be given a 100 grid penalty,
but it's 20.
It's only 20.
Yeah,
really.
I understand that.
So it's only a 20
it's
place.
Dramatic.
Yeah, he was just being it wasn't 25 because then you would have finished 6, not whatever. So relax. Lewis.
Breathe.
Lewis, relax.
Breathe out.
Hey, bro. Hey, we got it. We got it.
But we'll get to why
we rise,
We will get to why we both admire Lewis so much in a couple minutes.
Still we rise.
So that's the flour joke, love. We're in the different
When
podcasts.
I was making pizza dough, I had expired yeast that I was making the pizza dough with. But you know what? Still we rise.
I don't know what to do in these cases.
It's a good joke, man.
It was so funny when you said it.
It's a good joke.
It was so funny. I laughed for days when he said it. I laughed for 3
yeah,
days.
you're over here acting like...
No, I legitimately, I
joke.
laughed for 3 days. Every single day I told Cam, I'm you need to make this into a reel or something, because I was crying.
Still we rise.
Crying, laughing.
So Lewis gets disqualified because of this. Verstappen, it later comes out that he is fined 50,000 euros for touching the car, which I think is pretty fitting. It wasn't an indiscretion on the team. So I was it doesn't make sense. And the team didn't tell him to go do whatever the hell he did. I think it makes sense that he got some sort of fine. I don't know how they determined the fines or whatever it may be, but I kind of figured, I was like, I think it's going to be something on
You did.
Verstappen
You said
for
that.
doing something like that.
So funny though, after all of this happened. I mean, not only did the memes come out, but the drivers were making jokes about it. Like it was like Vettel made a joke about it. He's like, I'm gonna go touch Lewis's car, and his race
like,
director
don't
was
even
like,
think
don't
about
you
it.
dare. I've heard it's very expensive. And he's like, what if I touch the front? Maybe it'll be 25,000 euros instead of 50.
Seb's jokes though,
He's
man.
so funny. He has also touched cars before though.
Yeah.
He loves looking inside those cars. He's like all about it. But they all do it. This is what I meant to say. They all look at each other's tires.
I think they look
They
at them.
look, but they shouldn't touch Max.
I don't know. Like I think I've seen Max get out of the car and look at other people's tires. Peepers? Any peepers tires? Is he Max get out of the car and look at it? Like, do you notice I just started talking like that when I put my glasses on? Max get out of the car and see other people's tires.
You sound like such a little nerd.
I know, man. That's what I sounded like.
Okay.
That's what I was trying to go
So
for there.
weird.
You got it. Hey, Prix, you got it.
Yeah,
Good job.
thanks.
Good job. I've seen him like get out of the car and look at other drivers' tires, but I don't think I've seen him actually touch another car before.
I've seen them kick tires before,
Yeah.
which I think is touching. But regardless, literally I was like brushing my teeth. I think it was like yesterday morning, and I was like yelling through the toothpaste, and I was like, why did he have to touch it? Like, it's
Well,
like...
that was before we knew it was just going to be a fine.
No, I know.
Because we thought maybe it would have been some kind of grid penalty or something.
So then, of course, you know, for Sprint Quali, then you've got Max starting in P1 and Lewis starting in P20. And that's really all that matters.
Yeah.
Because that's where the championship is right now. And if you don't like us talking about Max and Lewis, then come back next year where there's
why
a different
do people,
thing.
I mean, like, hey, dude, if you're like a Ocon fan, just try another podcast, because, like, we don't really talk about that dude here as much. No, Ocon's cool, man.
Yeah. Quali was also interesting for one other reason, because, like, Mazepin, and I'm trying to say this with a straight face, but I can't. He, like, had these ambitions that he was...
Why are you laughing? It's not funny. I felt for the guy.
I did. I felt
he was
for him
crying.
too. I felt for him too. I said
Did you really?
I did.
You're a Mazepin fan now?
I'm
Wow.
not a Mazepin fan. I'm
Hey,
not
dude,
a fan.
we can return this and get you a Haas jersey
It'll
if
be
you
so
want.
much cheaper. I think I would spend like as much as I spent on this part on the entire jersey. I did feel for him, okay? I want to put that there. But, like, he had these really firm beliefs that he was going to at least out-qualify Mick. And it just didn't happen. And it was actually really sad to hear him on the radio, because he was like visibly upset. He was audibly upset.
Well, the guy gets last every single time.
He's
and I
gotten
think
last
that's
every
I think
time.
that's what the guy was saying.
How
he's like,
bad is it for your
He's like, he had
confidence?
success in F2, and he
they
just
all?
I don't think he wanted to finish every single race as the slowest guy on the grid, but that's racing, man. You know, not everyone gets a first place trophy here. This ain't like, you know, elementary school.
Participation trophies.
Yeah,
You know,
like how they
but
do
you-
in
maybe-
schools these days.
and maybe that's how people know they're not cut out for F1. I'm not saying he's not. This is his first year. I'm
No,
not saying
man.
he can't improve,
But
because
you're
the
in
Haas's car
Haas.
hasn't improved.
Yeah, there's always going to be a slowest car.
But I'm just saying, like, you know, Grosjean was in Haas, and look at him now.
Yeah,
doing amazing
but
things.
look at him now. He's no longer in Haas.
Yeah.
And he's doing well.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how
very
it works,
true. That's
man.
very true.
Like, if you're in Williams or Haas, like, you know.
Remember when we used to joke about Grosjean putting it in the wall? Those jokes are just like, they don't age well.
Dude, I remember when that happened, and we were just like, I never want to make another Grosjean joke again.
I know.
But I was just like, he should definitely get out of Formula One.
Yeah.
Because it was
Were we
just.
podcasting during that time?
I don't think we. No, I think we started the
man.
podcast after that season.
That would have been amazing to podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've only been doing the podcast for this season,
I know.
right? This
I
is the
know.
first season
It
of the
feels
podcast.
like it's been forever. It's like when we got our puppy. Feels like we've had him forever, but it's only been 3 months.
Yeah.
So Brazil Sprint or Los Lagos or
So Lewis was
Paulo.
going to start sprint in 20th.
20th, last on the
Right.
grid. He was so slow to get to the end of the grid. I mean,
Which
it
was
was
great.
like because his
I think that
tires
was
were
pure
so
strategy, though.
fast, and he. Okay, so two things, right? So Brazil Sprint, we'll just call it Brazil Sprint. Bottas got away better than Max, even though Max got a pretty good, like,
He
whatever.
said he had some kind of issues with gears there.
the
The
gear
gear sync
shift.
when he was. Essentially, it's like when he hits the paddle to shift the gears, it wasn't reacting as quickly.
Yes.
So.
And then Hamilton like darts like 3 cars ahead or 4 cars ahead.
I think they said before the first turn he passed 4 cars. Unreal.
Which is like, I get it, okay, before everyone like ats me, like I understand Haas and Williams and Alfa Romeo, like I get it. But we said the same thing, right? For the first 10 cars that he passed, we're like, the first 6 to 8, it's like,
Yeah, Mercedes could make it past the first
Mercedes
few.
should make it past them pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then this is where things get pretty wild. I'll just like spoil it here for you all.
I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen the race.
He made it to 6th, P6, from 20 to P6. From 20 to P6, okay? Which is kind of crazy if you think about that. You know what I mean? So, Bottas
You mean
kind
P5?
No, was it P5?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, my bad. P5. P5, okay? P5 of all things. Oh, yeah, because he started P10. P5. I mean, that's wild. That's 16, like you drove your ass off. Like and there were no safety cars.
In
there
like
was no
24 laps.
That was ridiculous.
Whatever it was.
Right? 24 laps. It was 24 laps.
20 and change laps.
So he passed like everyone. There was a lot of like cool, interesting things about like Max on signs, like trying to get DRS there from the Sprint Quali. Like Ferrari and the McLarens were not planning on like holding Hamilton up. Like they were not racing Hamilton. They are racing each other. Like it is papaya versus raspberry. And I don't understand like the papaya thing. Like I get papayas are orange, but like it's not the same kind of orange. So now I just call
They're
them
very descriptive with their
papaya
commentary.
and raspberry or cherry, whatever. So they're in their only. They're just racing themselves, each other in the championship. That is it. But Sprint Quali, I think, was so interesting for that reason, just because Hamilton started from the back of the grid and made it up to P5. So how we ended Sprint Quali was Bottas, which is freaking ridiculous. He was fast as anything. Verstappen could not catch him.
Yep.
Verstappen, Sainz, Perez, Hamilton, Norris, Leclerc, Gasly.
Ocon.
So if you want to talk about the race, Ocon, Vettel. So,
Top 10 usual suspects in the bottom.
Yes, usual suspects in the bottom. And I mean, this is where you can have your conversation about Perez and Ocon, or Perez and Gasly if you want. I mean, he was in what, P8 versus Perez in P4.
Okay.
Don't switch them.
Okay. I'll leave Perez alone. It's your boy, I get it.
Tickle.
Sergio Perez. I'll leave him, bro.
Okay.
So, sprint results, we have him as is. And then Hamilton gets he has to serve the engine penalty for the race. So, that penalty applies to like whatever position he is in when the grid is set for the race itself. So, for the actual race, he starts in P10, which was great. So, all that shit aside, now we're down to actual race day. So, race, man.
Max.
So, I mean, I guess to start, like, the start of the race, you know, you have a decent straight, I guess, and then before it goes into a turn. Race starts, and we have, what does Max get ahead?
Max got an amazing, like, catapult start.
Yeah.
He had an amazing start. The race beginning was so wild because everybody tried to go wide. Like, everybody just went, instead of it being like this, we were like this. It was really wild to see. So just from the get-go, you know, Max catapulted, and then all of a sudden, Perez just is behind Bottas. Like, he's just on Bottas's butt. Like, it doesn't matter that Sainz was even there, you know? So Perez was on Bottas, and then Norris kind of tried to, like, mow the lawn.
He tried to go on the outside, and, I mean, I have to see the replays a little bit. Like, Sainz was saying he got squeezed, but at the same time, it seemed like Norris went on the outside and then started floating back into the track without, like, looking correctly. There wasn't too much complaining coming from Norris's end, so I think he actually did screw that up. But he came, like, back in, hit Sainz, like just tire to tire, and ended up like getting a puncture. So
enough for the paint to come off of Sainz's tire.
yeah, so that kind of put him out, and he had to go into the pit to swap his tire. Then Sainz kept going. So,
but the McLaren team did an amazing job with pitting Norris. Like, I mean, yeah, he dropped down from what was he in, like sixth? He was in sixth to 20th, but like they did a 6-second stop. I mean, they checked the car, they got his new tires on. Like, they did a really great pit stop to get him back in.
yeah.
And then,
So the thing about this race is like it seemed like for the most part like Mercedes and Red Bull, like they were kind of keeping similar types of pace. It didn't seem like there was a huge difference in their pace and whatnot. So this whole race was really going to come down to like tire strategy, essentially. And I've been always saying this. I was like, Mercedes, I don't know. I just feel like with Red Bull anyway, when they run the undercut on Mercedes, it tends to go well. And I always get nervous when Mercedes undercuts Red Bull because it seems to work out in their favor. And like, you know, they talk about the undercut being powerful, not powerful. I feel like in most cases, it's pretty useful and powerful.
yeah.
You know, and in this case, I don't know, I guess they were on the fence about it, but how it ended up happening is Lewis came into pit. And you and I were both sitting there like, Joe, Max needs to come in right now. So Lewis ended up coming in, and then Red Bull reacted, and they brought in Verstappen right away. And he lost a little bit of time on that. Once he was back out on the track, he had lost a little bit of time to Lewis.
I mean, I agree with everything there you said except for about the pace. I mean, we knew at the beginning that Mercedes' pace was more than Red Bull. I feel like that's evidently clear. I think it's clear because of quali, sprint quali. I mean,
you're right. But I was like saying during the race, there didn't seem to be a huge. No one was really catching anybody.
I think the reason that you feel that way is because of the huge middle of the part before everyone started bumping into the pits, which is we were behind 2 safety cars. We were behind a safety car and a virtual safety car, and I think another safety car. I think we did 3 or 2. I think
there was another virtual.
So what ended up happening was first, Lewis got from 10 to 6 like real fast. Like he went from 10 to 6 and it was like a blink of an eye. And then we had a safety car because Stroll and Tsunoda made contact, and Stroll just like landed, or no, sorry, Tsunoda's car was just everywhere. There was carbon fiber everywhere. And then there was a virtual safety car because Mick's front wing was like under his car, and he had damage, and then he
had a little bit of a collision, I believe, with an Alfa Romeo.
I think it was Giovinazzi. I want to say it was Giovinazzi or Raikkonen, but he had contact. So Stroll,
and the front wing was stuck under the car.
Under the car.
Like dragging it, and bits were flying off
everywhere. So it started virtual, and then it went to a safety car. So for like maybe 6 to 8 laps out of the race, we were behind safety cars, or we were bunched down. So I think you didn't see the pace of the Mercedes because we weren't really racing by that time. You know, Verstappen was in front. Hamilton had made his way up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But then once you had Verstappen, Perez, Valtteri, and then Lewis, they made a switcheroo. Team orders, Lewis to Valtteri, right? And that was like kind of interesting.
Good move though, because Lewis was going faster than Valtteri.
He was.
And let's not like, you know, Lewis was at this point battled back from P10. This guy was tearing up the entire, you know, it was nuts.
And that's when I figured in my mind that it was only, I think I said it like 12 to 15 laps in.
Yeah.
I said that he's going to catch Max.
Yeah.
Because
I had some hope, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
I had hope, but there were a lot of little things that it just sped up the ultimate cat mouse, but it was going to happen. Like, I knew it was going to happen. I think most people saw that it was going to happen unless they were a little bit jaded, or like Kim really wanted it to, you know, for Max to win. But there was a couple of things that occurred. So one, the first undercut that Lewis made, that was super beneficial. What they should have done is brought Perez in first, and Red Bull should have done the undercut. But how Red Bull offset that is they undercut again at like lap 30, I want to say, or 40. Oh, no, it was 41. 41 is when 40 or 41 is when they brought Max in. So he only needed his tires for 30 laps. And they brought him in pretty quickly, but so the undercut wasn't very powerful here. It was going to be a 2-stop regardless. I don't think it could have been a 1-stop. The second thing that really helped Mercedes to just lean into winning is Valtteri behind the virtual safety car pitted.
Yeah.
Gained a huge advantage.
Got a little bit of time off that, yeah.
I think Christian Horner mentioned it was like only a matter of time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, I mean, I think those two things helped Mercedes to just kill the game.
Yeah.
But Mercedes wasn't happy about coming in the second time. Both of them were upset about it.
Initially, Lewis was like, Valtteri was just like, are you sure? Like, we need to pit right now. And he got pissed. He's like, we just gave up an easy 1-2. Lewis, and it was interesting because he didn't want to say what the tire strategy was going to be over the radio. They were doing some kind of coded message or something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's with the beeps or something like that. But he said they didn't say outright what it was, but they ended up putting hard tires on Lewis. And Lewis was like, nah, man, I wanted mediums. Like, I don't know about this. And looking at everything in hindsight, because Lewis ended up winning the whole race, he was like, yeah, the tire strategy was like completely spot on.
And he took that back really fast.
Yeah.
Like maybe 2 laps into the second portion of the race, he took it back. He was like, no, this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting to kind of see that all unfold the way it did.
Yeah. You can keep going. Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to see if you needed to go to the bathroom or anything.
So it was just really interesting to see a tire strategy the way it was. And like initially, and the thing is we don't hear all the team radios. Like this is not us like pooping on Mercedes. Like I'm sure everyone is entitled to a little bit of questioning, but Lewis took it back real fast. Like he was, because the tire degradation was such that with hotter temperatures, you needed the hard tires. Out of all of the commotion of video safety cars or virtual safety cars and actual safety cars, a 10-second penalty was given to Yuki Tsunoda for causing a crash or an incident, basically. But where we kind of ended up was, for a while, and this was like so amazing to watch. I think this was one of your favorite moments. But like Max, Perez, Lewis, and Lewis on Perez, which was
Lewis and Perez fighting each other and battling for the position was so dope. Like it was like Lewis was hunting down Perez, and then he got DRS and then passed him, and then Perez like back at him, DRS and passes him. And like it's so great to watch drivers like battle Lewis, because I think a lot of them are just intimidated and they're like, yeah, he's gonna pass, like I'll just let him pass. And it's just nice to see a driver be like, no, I'm gonna actually like fight for the position a little bit, even though like Lewis is, you know, one of the best drivers out there, period, and will probably pass you. It's just cool to watch him like be like, no, let's do it, let's like make this entertaining, which, you know, Perez did for a little bit, and it made things like really nail biting. And like I've seen like both of them have battled quite a few times, and it's always been so fun to watch. You know, it's like so nuts.
It was amazing. I mean, he depleted his battery and couldn't fight back at one point, but it was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So once he passed Perez, I mean, I knew it was done for.
Yeah. After that, he was just like gaining, and then, you know, at a certain point, he got within DRS range, and then.
Well, I mean, he got within DRS range a couple times with Max.
Oh, yes, he did.
And Max was a naughty little boy.
Naughty, as they say in the naughty.
There were like 3 attempts for Max to be within DRS from Lewis, and Lewis was about within
the other way around.
Or Lewis was within DRS of Max.
Max, yeah.
And it was pretty wild because
he did get DRS on him a couple times. Yeah.
3 times, I think.
Yep.
And at one point, this was 100% where I love Red Bull. I love Max. I think he's a great driver.
So they go through a corner, and you guys all know what we're talking about. He goes through this turn, and he's on the right side of Max. Both cars go like exceedingly wide, and pushes like Lewis off. Both of them go off the track. Lewis a little more. He goes more on the dirt. And Verstappen ends up keeping the position. Now, like, when it was, shown on like TV and everything with the FIA, they're like, oh, it was just a racing incident, like no like fine or anything like that necessary, no investigation even. They just noted that it happened. Max clearly, like, okay, we know Max Verstappen, this guy knows how to drive a Formula One car. He pushed him off the track for sure.
For real.
I'm a Red Bull fan, but like, I'm not gonna bullshit here. He pushed Lewis off the track.
Hard.
I think it was pretty apparent.
It was, but you didn't have all of the video footage at the time. We didn't have the steering footage at the time.
And everyone online too was like talking about that. They're like, let's see that steering footage. They're like, it's funny that they're not showing that. That's really interesting. Like like sarcastically, obviously, but like, I guarantee if you see that in the cockpit, like you see that view, you're going to see Max turning, you're going to see him look there, and you're going to see him just bend it back a little more to the right, forcing Verstappen off. And like, I was telling Prix about this. I was like, he probably knew what the gap kind of was to the next driver and figured like if he does get any kind of like time penalty, it'll still drop him into second.
Yeah.
So he might as well try to just force him off the track and see what happens, right? So I think that's what he really did. And my puppy is in my face. Puppy, you are in my face. Yeah.
We're making a little appearance of our other co-host, Mr. Milo.
Mr. Milo.
And if he does not want to chill out with us, he can go back on the ground.
So
the other thing about this though was hilarious. Like Toto Wolff to Michael Massey, Christian Horner to Michael Massey, all about like emails and stuff like last couple races.
Hey, dude. Hey, Toto, where's your emails at though, bro?
So funny. Christian and Michael Massey are a vibe. Like Michael,
all of them are a vibe.
They're all a vibe. Anyone with Michael Massey is a vibe. So Massey comes on and is just like, well, what are your thoughts, Christian? He was just like, oh, this is for the championship. This is racing. These are racing things.
He's like, let's just let them race.
And he was like, noted. And he's like, thank you for taking note.
He's like, thank you for receiving it.
I know. And it was like so wild to me that Michael Massey is never loved.
Yeah.
Michael Massey's never loved.
He's trying to go for you, Mike.
That's okay, Bubba. Okay, sit now. Okay, we're done. But I didn't get to hear what he said to Toto because I don't think we heard it. But it was pretty funny, I'm sure. I'm sure we could find it
I'm sure
online.
it was very colorful.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was incredibly colorful.
No, one of the race engineers, somebody from Mercedes got on board with Michael Massey, and he was like, oh, so it's okay to get a lasting advantage from going wide.
Yeah.
And Michael, I don't remember what
I don't
Michael
think they
said.
had Toto talk to the FIA. I think the race engineers
I think
talked
Toto
to them
Wolff
because Toto was pissed.
So ticked off.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
ticked off.
Yeah.
So it was one of those really interesting occasions where, like, Michael's nobody's friend forever. So that's what ended up happening. And then the second issue, the second problem was Max was, again, a naughty little boy. I'm surprised he didn't get, I'm so shocked he didn't get penalties.
Please stop calling him a naughty little boy. It's weird.
No, I can't do it. I don't have a British accent. He was being silly. He weaved to kind of cut Lewis Hamilton's toe off, which sounds really weird too.
Hamilton was gaining on him, and he was weaving to try to get him so he wouldn't get the slipstream.
Yeah. He was cutting his toe off. And he got shown the black and white flag, but by that time...
As a warning for that.
As a warning. By that time, Lewis had already lunged ahead, gotten him. And the reason we know that the pace was not even in question is by the end of the race, Lewis had 10 seconds on Max. It was stupid amounts of time.
Max was, the thing about Max Verstappen is he's a very talented driver, but he is hyper competitive. And I think he's a good guy. I don't think he has any bad intentions or anything like that. But yeah, I think he's an incredibly aggressive driver, and he will do whatever he can to, even if it means slightly bending the rules. I think he's going to do whatever he can to win a race within reason. Mm-hmm. The one thing that and this is coming from me is I was thinking about this with this incident with Verstappen pushing Lewis wide off the track and the FIA not investigating it, is where else did we see that happen.
Yeah.
And it did not turn out the same way.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton pushed Verstappen off the track on Silverstone and sent him into the wall.
Into the hospital.
Right into through the wall into a hospital,
Yeah.
essentially. So, and that was, arguably that can be put, however you want. You can argue it, you can look at the video footage, whatever it may be. The interesting thing to me is it was like a very similar scenario. And I think, quite honestly, the FIA is a little scared of looking certain ways. And we've talked about it here on this podcast that, they seem to have like a soft spot for Mercedes. And I'm sure, this is F1. A lot of people, I'm sure, say the same thing. Like, Lewis gets, favored by the FIA and this and that. People talk about it all the time online. I think the FIA was like a little scared to look that way. And quite honestly, I mean, I don't know how it goes. It's like maybe they want to be like, oh, well, he knocked him out here, so let's just let this one slide, a racing incident, whatever. This is an easy one we can get away with. Whereas the Silverstone incident was a little harder for them to get away with. Christian was pissed. Everyone was pissed. It was like
a huge issue.
Big thing.
So I actually have a couple of thoughts on that. We didn't even talk about this. I'm surprised you brought it up. So there's 3 ways to look at this. Okay, one is the FIA is trying to correct. Okay, like overcorrect in a way, or correct.
Yeah, overcompensate.
Yeah, by like looking the other way and penalizing Lewis.
Yeah.
Or they are exactly what everyone's accusing them of being, which is inconsistent. I think those are the only 2 things that it could be, because they have been accused of being inconsistent. And I feel like there's this other thing that when you're this close in the championship, you always feel like you're wronged. And I feel like I like Lewis. So like hands down, Lewis killed it today. He literally went from 20th to from
the back of the grid to the
grid to the front.
He earned it.
That's it.
Yeah.
He killed it.
That was his win.
You don't even have to talk about the car.
He is the greatest.
Bottas obviously doesn't do as well as him.
Yeah.
He is the greatest of all times. It's crazy. It's stupid. It's what it is.
Yeah.
And like Lewis deserves a huge amount of respect. He deserves to celebrate. That win is ridiculous. So all of that being said, I do think that he takes criticism poorly or hardship poorly. I think he's so hard on himself. And when it's dished out to him, I sometimes think it's like they're trying to get me down. Versus I think Verstappen is more just like, I don't think that this is fair, but like, screw it, I'm moving on with it kind of mentality. It's because they come from different places, right? Lewis Hamilton is the only black F1 driver, and Max probably has not faced that kind of adversity. I get both sides. I'm just saying that when you're in a position of this championship, you're always going to feel like you're wronged. It's why Massey's nobody's friend. But all of that being said, even Max like makes a joke out of it, like right with the checkered flag. He was like, oh, please and thank you, or tell them hi for me, or something like that. Like that was his get back. But I just think that the FIA is either overcorrecting or they're just inconsistent. And regardless of which one it is, it's not good.
Depends. Hey, it depends who you root for.
It does, but
because you're gonna piss off one side or the other.
You are, but the thing is what happened with Hamilton pushing Max off, which is unequivocal, and I'm saying he did it to Lewis today. That should have been a penalty.
The thing is though, in Silverstone, that was closer to a racing incident than it was just somebody pushing somebody off. Yeah. You know what I mean? This was a little more blatant, as Verstappen was just like, okay, I'm gonna take him wide.
So extrapolate it. If this had ended up with Hamilton being in the wall, should there have been a penalty? Yes.
But the thing is like Silverstone wasn't as blatant. It could be argued that it was just like
a racing incident. Whereas here, and we are going to see that footage. The FIA better release that footage of what actually happened in the cockpit of Verstappen. Can it change the results now? Can they give
I don't know.
Can they dish out penalties after?
But it's going to show what happened. You can't, you're going to see him where he looks and looking in the mirror, and then you're going to see what his hands do on the steering wheel. And you'll know. But it looked like that turn should have been something that Verstappen could have easily handled, no problem.
Yeah.
And
it was interesting. I'm looking forward to the footage.
But didn't make much of a difference at all,
It didn't. I mean, it was just heading him off. It was just heading him off for a little bit of time.
So that ended up happening. Lewis ended up catching Verstappen, passing him, and the rest is history.
Out of the race. Like, literally Verstappen, and then it was was it Bottas? And then Perez, yeah. So what ended up happening is Hamilton had the fastest lap. Hamilton, who also won Driver of the Day. But Hamilton had the fastest lap, and what ended up happening was Perez had enough distance between him and Leclerc, I want to say. Because it was
he had enough of a gap to do a pit stop, put on the softs, and try to get the fastest lap.
On lap 70,
last
71,
lap, had to be the
he
last
literally
lap of the
took
race.
the fastest lap of the race. So he took that point away from the championship. You are rushing me.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was Lewis came through 8 seconds, 9 seconds, 10 seconds ahead. Verstappen, Bottas, Perez. I believe it was Leclerc, Sainz.
Yeah, I think Leclerc
Ricardo
was behind him. Yeah.
Oh no, Ricardo didn't finish. We had 2 DNFs. Daniel Ricciardo, who had a power unit loss, and Stroll, who just continued to spew debris all over the track.
So they're like, yeah, bro, you done.
It was wild. I'm so sad that Danny Rick did not get to finish the race.
Yeah.
But
that's how that went. But
where did Mazepin end?
Mazepin.
He didn't end. He never ends last.
Did he DNF?
Nope, he ended 18th.
Oh wow, no, 17th. Mick was 18th.
Oh,
yeah.
He finished ahead. Good job, Mazepin. So Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, the Cherries, Leclerc, Sainz. Gasly in 7th all by himself. 8th, 9th was Ocon, Alonso. 10th, last point, Norris. Vettel just always outside of the points.
Yeah. So this was a crazy race.
And then, sorry.
What?
The last little penalty or something Cam was telling me about. So.
Oh yeah, that's like a whatever.
I thought it was
has nothing really to do with the race, but yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah, Lewis just unbuckled his seatbelt during the celebration, and they fined him 5,000 euros.
What a horrible weekend for Mercedes.
Yeah, because he was waving around the flag. It's nothing to him. You know how much that guy makes.
Yeah.
It's like pennies for him. So he's like, yeah, whatever. I'm sure. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. He didn't know it was a. I guess I don't know if he knew he was breaking the rules or whatever, but hey, dude. Unbuckling your seatbelt or touching another driver's spoiler, you know what I mean?
He didn't unbuckle, he just loosened his belt.
Yeah, but 5,000 versus 50, you know.
Yeah. Well, he has 20,000 more to pay.
You get $5,000 for undoing your seatbelt in a moving Formula 1 car with other drivers, but to get out and do that to a spoiler, 50 G's. Pay up. If I be making money, bruh.
Yeah, if I made a lot of money.
Must be nice.
Money,
what do they do with that, I wonder?
Goes back, I don't know, into...
Give it to Massey.
Massey got a bonus of 55,000 euros this weekend. Plus the 20 grand that Lewis has to pay out before 2022.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be hitting up Qatar. Not next weekend, but the weekend after. So we're going to take a... Wait, is it next weekend?
Oh, you're getting love. You're getting puppy love.
Is it next weekend? Oh, hi there. Hey there, buddy. So next weekend, we're going to Qatar. So 4 days, literally, we're going to be in Qatar. We're going to Qatar. Yeah. And it should be fun. I'm excited. Yeah. 3 more races to go.
We're going to the Middle East, pretty much, right?
Yes, we are. We're going to the Middle East.
Let's see what we got left.
Yeah.
So we got Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Abu Dhabi. Milo's excited. That'll be it for the season. And then we head over to the 2022 season, right, Milo? With the new car and everything. So
should be interesting. And
it's the new sad, man.
I know.
Formula 1 season. But I mean, soon they're gonna start doing winter testing, and
we're gonna do a podcast about that too. So
yeah, we'll be back. Well, I mean, that's gonna be so interesting because we're gonna be seeing what the new cars are like and how they perform and everything like that. So winter testing is gonna happen, and you know, I think the new season will be back before we know it. Yeah. So it should be a lot of fun. So
thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe on YouTube if you want to watch the video version, or if you're listening to this. If you are watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to Spotify and listen to the audio version, I should say, there. And
we're on Spotify. Follow us on F1 My Life Podcast on Instagram.
On Instagram, F1 My Life Podcast. I will try to post like more clips and stuff on there. And
we'll see you in like 5 days.
Yeah.
Or 7 days. Have a good week.
Is that it? Yep.
Bye.
Bye.